Welcome back to part 3 of the LLC Empowerment Series. If you have looked at part 1 and part 2, you're right on par to what we need to cover today. If you have not looked at part 1 and part 2 LLC Empowerment Series, I highly encourage you to go back, look at part 1 and part 2, and then come back here to part 3, because each part will build upon each other. So that means each section that I cover will make more sense if you have a good understanding of the previous section. So today we are doing part 3. In part 1, we talked about a brief history of what the LLC is and how it came about in the US. And then we moved on from there to just kind of have a quick overview regarding other business entities, whether you can register them with your state or if you can just operate in such fashion without officially registering that type of business structure with the state. And then we moved on to just talk about, some things that you should think about when deciding what business entity is best for you. When you're thinking about risks, liabilities, when you're just thinking about the nature of your business, if there's going to be other owners, if you're going to need money. So we just talked about some things that should be in the forefront before you decide what is the best entity for you. And not just decide to register a business entity because it's popular, you hear it all the time. Everyone wants to register an LLC because that's probably one of the most common business entities that are, thrown out there. And then next, individuals may want to register corporations. But you want to make sure that you're maximizing the type of business entity that you are forming and creating. So that's what we covered a little bit in part 1 and part 2. And now as we continue on with the next parts, we're going to continue to drill down. As I stated earlier, this is going to be a 8-part series when we're looking at the LLC Empowerment Series. And each time we're going to drill down a little bit more. So hopefully by the end, you have a great understanding of what the LLC is, and you don't go from LLC to SOL. All right, so let's just talk about go into today and talk about, the proper formation of an LLC. Well, firstly, we want to start with how the state handles the LLC. What is the driving force behind allowing us to, form this LLC? So we talked about the history of how it came here, but why was the US so attracted to it? What was the great benefit? Well, one of the things I mentioned briefly earlier is that the LLC